Hello. You are listening to the Carroll Connection with your host, Jared Carroll.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Carroll Connection. I am your host, Jared Carroll, here to bring you guys another great episode. I did want to take the chance to shout out last week's episode 139 with Vasilis Axios. He is a real estate broker, and on that episode, we talked about how he got into real estate. We talked a little bit about him coaching, doing sales, and we also talked about him running the Boston Marathon and kind of the process behind that. Really great podcast. Shout out to Billy G. He kind of helped link that podcast up, and we found each other through that. Great network. Check out both those guys. But you can check that out at thecarrollconnection.simplecast.com. Also available Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all the major listening platforms. If you like to watch your podcast, you can go on YouTube, search The Carroll Connection at Jared M. Carroll. It doesn't matter how you guys look. This is why I have you guys muted. And if you want to be a guest, you can hit me up on Instagram at Jared M. Carroll or at The Carroll Connection, and I'll set that up. But for today, bringing in two of my personal favorites. wALiE's been on multiple episodes, and I've been also on the Ever-Changing Vibe, shout out to Ever-Changing Vibe. And Gio hasn't been on in over a year. So bringing you guys wALiE and Gio, we're going to talk about AOHD, their reaction channel, and dive into some other stuff on top of that. But what's up, boys? Welcome to the podcast again.
Not much, man. How have you been?
I've been good. I'm glad that we were able to get all of us here to do a podcast together. I know last time we did a podcast on the Carroll Connection was with Eli back in November. So I'm glad that
was there.
Yeah, he was producing.
I was?
You showed up late to that.
I did. Yeah, I was going to say, that's right. Because that's the day I was working.
And then I left early because
I
I went out that night too for Thanksgiving Eve.
These people love this part of the talk, like what we did that day.
Yeah. They were waiting to hear this.
Yeah. They were just like, yeah, I was working in retail. And
I hated your job.
I hated my job, so I quit.
We have a lot to get into specifically with you and the reaction channel, and it relates to bringing it to wALiE and you guys collabing a lot. And we'll talk about Ever-Changing Vibe too and how that relates a little bit to AOHD. But I'll allow kind of Gio to kind of go first and kind of catch everybody up on what you've been up to since that last episode.
Sure. So wALiE's been holding me in his basement, and I just can't escape. And for real though, like I think, what was it? Last time I was on here, I was still doing like Mic 'em Up, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I gave up. Can I swear on this?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, okay, cool. Fuck that shit. And so I just realized, like, as
Fuck.
Thanks, wALiE. I appreciate
it.
Congrats.
But I realized, like, as I was going with the podcast, that it wasn't for me. Like, whether it was the fact that I couldn't interview people well, in my opinion, or the fact that it became so overwhelming to do like all the editing and how I was editing things, and I was tired of just doing all that work and not having like any help really. And then I had like host sleeve, and I had ended up replacing it with wALiE, which really didn't help, and I just I struggled. So eventually I got to the point where I think me and him did like a test reaction on right. It was
you brought up the idea of off the mic.
Yeah. Well, no,
as the podcast first,
that's right.
And then we started recording just because you're like, I wanted to start adding more than just the podcast to the YouTube page. So I came up with this idea of like reacting to some songs, since that was kind of the direction of Mic 'em Up at the time.
That's right.
I don't know music, so we already had like a direction that we can kind of set the whole vibe into, where it's like a guy with a music background shows someone who is tone deaf music, and we sat in the studio the first time. I don't even remember what the first song we did.
I'm pretty sure it was what's his name?
It was Chance the Rapper.
No, it
Chance
was not
the Rapper.
Chance
We
the
didn't
Rapper.
we didn't put it out. It was Chance the Rapper.
Oh my god. It was
And
Chance the Rapper.
That video never went out. I don't even
That's
know if
right.
we went back and edited it, but
I never did.
We had so much fun, and ever since that moment, I started to really pick up on the fact that you just like would shut off during a podcast. You were just like out of it. And then each week you'd be like, maybe I'll put it out next week. Maybe I'll put it out with the podcast. And I'm like, you're just not enjoying it. I saw all that like on your face, but every time we're getting in the studio to record like music reactions, or it was really just like bullshitting, watching music videos. It was fun.
Yeah. And I think that was the change because like he mentioned earlier, there was the off the mic. So off the mic at first, when I had first implemented it, it was because Mic 'em Up, it was supposed to be that interview podcast where we interviewed a musician or guest or an artist of some sort. And then it got to the point where I was just like, I don't have enough guests all the time. Like it's getting tiring trying to find guests and them not showing up. But I'm sure you've had that issue too.
Oh yeah. Well, I know some.
Yeah. So
Check out episode. I think it was episode. I think it was 102, The Art of Communication. Like that was the specific episode. But
was this supposed to?
No, I was just
reference the
scratching.
person?
No.
I was like, was he an itchy?
Still
person?
never opened that DM. To this day, has never opened the DM.
Get wrecked.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, they're never invited on the podcast. So
jeez, dude.
I will triple and double down. Like I don't give two shits.
So like, yeah, it would just
did.
get like annoying, and I don't know you, but hey, what's up, dude? So it would just get annoying, right? And so we ended up creating Off the Mic because I was like, oh, if I can do Off the Mic, that will be just me and wALiE riffing about random stuff, whether it's stuff in the media, just us talking shit, whatever it would be.
It's a lot more limitless. You could have a lot more fun with it.
Yeah.
And I think it brought out the side that you initially had going into podcasting.
Yeah, and which it did, but and then that still became overwhelming because it was like I'm still editing all that stuff. I'm still like editing now, like with the stuff that we do now, will probably take me like 5 or 6 hours between like making sure I get all the audio the way I like it or the video the way I like it, doing any like minuscule or little edits here and there, and of course like the comedic edits that I will do. When I was doing the podcast, that was like an hour's worth of content, if not longer at times, which would take me way longer. And it was just so draining and so tiring that I was like, I'm done. So like when we started doing like the switching off the mic to that reaction thing, I was like, this is kind of where I want to go. And I remember there was just one day where I was like, I want to just do this to wALiE. And he was like, I'm down with that. And then I remember we were sitting there and we were like, but I guess it's time to just have a rebrand. And we switched everything to AOHD, and we've just been like in a reaction channel since, and it's been fun. Like I enjoy doing the whole reactions and doing all of whatever we may do, but it's like even now, like we're starting to find ourselves again, like revamp ourselves,
and like kind of getting bored of certain styles or certain you know themes and certain types of reactions. So we're talking earlier about like what's the next series or step that we're going to take, and like what other things are we going to focus on trying to react to? How can we expand this?
Yeah, and so that's been fun too. It's just like trying out new things and everything like that. And it's just, I mean, obviously, like everyone always looks at like content creation either as like a fun thing or a career option or whatever. And of course, like my entire goal is like it is career based. Like of course I'm still having fun, and I think that's where I have to find that like line, and where I'm always looking for that line, because it's like if it is my career, I want to be able to enjoy that career. And so it's like being able to just try out new things and explore in different avenues and whatnot, and like us just having even those days where we're sitting there going to say, I don't know, body double, and it turns into like a 3-hour conversation of just like what we plan on doing next, and
or just about like our recent, you know,
life stories,
situations, and
so it's like that's the part that I enjoy the most. And it's like I think that it's going to take me a while to get to where I want to be? Sure, but like I know that like within like my 2 to 3 year plan that like this is going to be a job, and I will like by like what end of November I'll be already getting paid by YouTube. So it's like I know that like by the end that is kind of be my goal, and I'm hoping that like I still have fun by the time it does become my job. And that's the only goal at this point, where it's like me and him can enjoy ourselves while still making a living.
Yeah, where did the idea for the actual name of AOHD come from? Like, you can give the public description. Obviously, we talked
it's
privately.
ADHD. It looks like ADHD, and it's fun to say. D.
Yeah,
that's it.
Does that come from you or come from him?
I don't know where you stand on this, but I like to think I was the mother that birthed this child.
I think that he was the mother, but I think I planted.
Yeah,
you're daddy. Okay, got it.
100%. You fertilized me, and I wrote on a piece of paper and was like, this is it. You like
Yeah.
that? You're like, yeah, dude. I'm like, all right.
that's the name.
Let's switch the O to a 0. Nope. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's go.
And then we signed the paperwork and
took her home.
Yeah,
Yeah.
took her home.
Like,
Her? Damn, we gendered it.
oh man, sorry they.
But yeah, so like it's been fun. It's been difficult to try and balance it with like my current job because it's like right now I am still technically a freelancer, and like there are times where it's like that job does get overwhelming, and I do have to like take back on like even creating the content, which essentially slows down my goals. But I do think that it's like necessary at the time because it's like if I had tried to continue creating content in those like crazy hectic moments, I'd have given up by now. Like
That or
I'd gone crazy.
You would see it would come off as almost lazy to like the audience, where it's more so just like you just didn't have it in that moment.
Yeah.
So
Or you get like moments like wALiE gets to see where my ADHD goes fucking wild and I can't sit the fuck down. Like I'm just all over the place.
Asking
I don't shut the fuck up.
questions of topic, like bringing in new topics every 3 minutes but starting it with a question. I'm like, what is happening? What is this is
that day that I came in, it was just like so there's a day I came to help because another side note is I eventually came to help wALiE with his podcast, right? But
that's when it started to actually get good, you know.
Yeah, exactly. I'm king of content for.
It's good.
I'm being
look
nice.
At that.
That was the compliment.
Oh darn!
Yeah.
You made a mistake now.
You know what happens
Did I
with
know?
compliments?
Did I know?
He said he was prepared this time. He said he was prepared.
But I warned him. No compliments.
So I remember that day we got into the studio and I'm just wilding, and I warned wALiE like after 16 questions, like, yeah, dude, I think I'm going crazy today. And he's just like, bro, I've never seen you like this. Yeah. He was like, I can tell.
Yeah.
And the entire rest of the day, he was like, what is going on today?
I wish it wasn't the first time because I really was enjoying that. Like those, like I felt like I was like talking to my students again. I was just like, why is your brain thinking about these things? Like what is going on with your brain? But I was just like so focused on trying to get like the podcast set up, ready. I think I had a guest that day, so to like contact the guest, like move all the pieces, and then you were like, I wasn't able to like really enjoy your energy, but it was also new, so I'm just trying to like understand what is happening. It was really fun. I wish I paid more attention to some of your questions because it was fun. It was a fun little ride.
Well, I'm really glad when I saw you make that change to the reaction channel because I think I remember I forget which I came on for an episode that never even released because
he's good at that. He's good at recording things that don't go out.
Well, it's because we recorded you like made like a joke on like it was like an edit of like a TikTok reel. It was like calling me out, and then I came on to try to like I think it was
defend
make you
yourself.
laugh too. Like that was like the challenge, and like I could just tell you were so disconnected from that episode that like goes into what you were saying. Like you just like you weren't really enjoying it. You were just like it was fun to hang out and talk, and we stayed fucking super late.
And then
but,
as soon as we finished the podcast, it was like it was a fun vibe.
Yeah.
And I think even that day, officially, like I wanted that to be fun. And there was times where like you definitely got him pretty good. So I'm sorry to any fans that want to see him like shit on wALiE a little bit. But like, I remember that day, the second you guys got into like any other topic, I remember staring down the barrel of the screen and making weird faces and just like dancing in the camera for no reason. And then like barely hearing you guys. And the second I heard a topic change, I was just like, where are we at? Like, I need to pay attention for a second. Oh, I don't care about this topic. Back to the fucking camera. Like I was just, like I didn't care. And that day I realized like I'm ending the podcast. I was like, I'm not going to edit this as much as I want to, but I'm not going to edit this because of the fact that like, I already know like I'm not with it anymore. Yeah, so
that makes a lot of sense because I mean the way that like we do podcasts, I could tell your energy was not like fully into it, especially by that episode. Like it was just like clear as day. Like, and like you have great production. Like everything was set up great. The studio was dope, and like you had it all there. But like you didn't. Like, you could tell you didn't really want to be doing that. And I could imagine the frustration too of trying to interview, especially musicians and trying to get all those people on.
musicians.
Well, you gotta hear me out.
Yeah,
you gotta let me finish.
musicians, I
Let me-
hate them,
you gotta
dude,
let me finish the
like-
point. Let me finish the point. Is the fact that like
Especially piano majors.
sounds like there's something there, but we don't have to dig into that. The fact of just like limits the number of guests that you could have, because like how many musicians do you possibly know that are going to be willing to do a podcast?
Yeah.
Usually-
it wasn't even just musicians. It was
Yeah.
musicians, artists in general, like visual artists, like dancers, even social
Comic
media
book?
influencers, comic book writers. Like I had like anybody that was an artist period on, but there was like, and there would be artists that would come on or be excited to come on, and they'd come on, and it was great. Like some of those people, like even the one that did the comic book, like I enjoyed his energy so much. Like or there's some artists that I enjoyed their energy, but and then like the things that like tore me apart was like when I'd get someone to be like, yeah, I'm ready to go, I'm down to go, and I'd be like, all right, cool, and I'd be like, all right, so here's this day. What does this day work? And then it's just goes from there on out. Or like we'd set on a day, and then it was just like this 2 days before when I'm hitting them up to be like, hey, I just want to make sure, are you still able to come down? And it's just ghost. And it's just like, dude, like, how am I supposed to record content if you're just ghosting me like that? And like it just got so tiring that that's why we ended up doing the off the mic where it was like just us two podcasts in general, because I was like I had more fun with that anyway, and I wasn't stressing out.
I think that was also a time when I was doing Ever Changing Vibe and really focusing on the message of like reliability. Like if this is really my dream, this is my passion, then the only person I'm relying on is myself. I got to make sure that I do the content. So I think that was a lot of my mindset and kind of like vibe and my aura kind of going into it. So I think it kind of like was at the right time because it was the like vibe that you needed to kind of witness is like, I'm here to work with you, and I will always be like reliable for those types of things. Unlike, you know,
and I appreciate that. I'm like, I'm just in like 90% of the time, I intentionally forget the fact that like I was supposed to start with you in the beginning, and then you ghosted. But like, I'm
I mean, is that true? Is that true? Because I have my side of the story too.
But yeah.
One thing, and you don't have notepads like I provide to my guests at my studio. I need to like write down a word, and I know this is kind of like a side road that I need. Entrepreneur.
Entrepreneur?
Like an artist that is an entrepreneur with their art.
Did you really need to write that down though?
Yeah, I don't know why.
I didn't want to interject and fucking ruin the conversation, but here we are.
It's the ADHD part, you know what I'm saying?
I asked before, is there anything that you need? And you did not say, I need a notepad.
That is true.
I said I need
That
to,
is true.
Like,
you just said I need a pee.
We knew that was coming regardless. We just didn't know.
Yeah. Oh, man.
This guy.
But yeah, so like, for me, I don't mind podcasts. Like obviously, like, you know, when I come on here or on his show or whatever, like I don't mind like just, you know, vibing out, talking, whatever. Or any podcast that I've been on. But like even on his podcast, like I enjoy being the background guy, right? Like I enjoy being that producer role that is not really on camera. Like I'm just like, you know, helping out. I'm doing some research. I'm prepping some jokes. I'm like watching to make sure if it's going to get boring or not, you know? And like I may give him the cues, whether it's a silent cue or I just grab onto the Rodecaster and lower his volume and be like, oh shit, wALiE can't talk anymore. Like let's move topics and, you know, move on. You know, so it's moments like that where I enjoy being more in the background role. But and then when it comes to the YouTube, it's like that's where I'm actually having like a lot of fun, and that's where I don't mind being on camera. And I think that the dynamic between the two of us now, where it's like he's the wild ADHD dude and I'm the internal, just like quiet ADHD dude, and it's just like our dynamic now where we can create those like jokes or have those funny moments. Like I think that's what creates the channel that we have now. Whereas like the podcast at some point just really just felt forced. So
yeah, that makes a lot of sense when I was like watching the actual transition and then watching the actual like reactions. Like you could tell you're just way more into it, like the animation behind your face, behind what you're saying, and then like the dynamic to combine you guys. I think that experience of like was off the mic, correct?
Yeah.
Where you guys got to like co-host basically.
Well, it was both.
But was off the mic was first, right? That was like the first trial.
No. Mike Em Up was first.
Mike Em Up was first. He called me up to help out with cameras one time.
Yeah,
I was
start
like,
off with
I just
cameras.
gotta like. But after you finish the studio, after I ghosted you and all that, and then you actually finished the studio, but you kept giving me updates. I was like, I was like, all right, this guy's actually serious about it. So you eventually.
Let's move this mic because you're talking
Sure.
towards him, and like I can
It's almost like he doesn't have a podcast or something.
I know. It's like, does this dude do a podcast? Like,
Yeah, dude. It's crazy.
I mean, you're loud enough where it doesn't matter, but like,
Yeah, dude. When
I'm
you were
picking up on your mic.
so earlier when you were playing with the thing, I thought that's what you were doing because I thought you were lowering yours and everybody else's butt wALiEs because you could notice that like he was just coming up everywhere else.
Yeah, it
I
just
do
comes
the
up in all of them.
same thing.
But I mean,
on
the microphones are all close. I mean, I knew that was gonna happen regardless, so it didn't really matter.
Yeah.
But like, I could tell, like, even just in the headset, like, I mean, you're talking to him like this, so like I could hear you, but it sounds like
Distant.
less. Yeah, sounds a little bit. I mean, it'll still sound loud because it's you, but like, podcast etiquette.
Yeah.
We got to train you still. I know you're 100 episodes in, but we got some work to do.
Yeah, 2,000 hours.
I still have. I'm
10,000 hours.
I'm not happy with my like podcasting ability, to be fair. But
Wait, are you being serious? Or you
No,
ready to start
Yeah,
a
this is
podcast?
a vulnerability
I have,
moment. Like, he's being
way-
honest.
Like when I do listen back or watch it back, or I'm editing and I'm actually seeing the footage or how I talk or the pace, the cadence, the this, the that. I know a lot of my weaknesses. Gio mentioned something about like kind of taking more of a behind the scenes role or I forgot you said back something, whatever, a behind the scenes role. And that is that kind of that producer role. And it was something that I knew from before I even started my podcast was something that was what I wanted to bring to my show. Looking at like, young Jamie with the Joe Rogan podcast was something that I always try to like incorporate. I had different people kind of filling a similar role and it worked at sometimes, it didn't at others. But when Gio really like first, because he had done it a couple times, but like the time where it was like, we kind of established like, yeah, Gio's going to be producing this. I got to really see the creative role that behind the scenes producer really has. I call myself a content creator, but a lot of the content that I create, especially now that Gio's picked up that role, I'm only able to react or kind of respond or riff off of the creation or the content that Gio is there producing, whether it's like on the spot coming up with like a question game or even if we're kind of prepping and coming up with like our Valentine's themed, like, couples questions and all these other things that really bring that like creative value to the content that I think is the more valuable part that is called entertainment on my podcast. And, so that, I don't know, what was I saying?
Bro just went on a whole rant and forgot what he was talking about.
That is
You're doing so great
at its finest.
And that's the name of the reaction channel.
Yep. Now you guys know why.
You were giving pretty much his compliments for being part of behind the scenes for you and how that's like helped seeing the creative aspect
and how important it is to have and I think another part of why that kind of role was like been more a serious role as part of it was with the AOHD. We wanted to, continue working together to really, we already had a great dynamic. So the more we're doing different types of content together, the better we're understanding our dynamic, the better, like he mentioned, like he'll just drown me out in the middle of my podcast. It like to even be comfortable, like relieving the roadcaster and not be in my control during my podcast was a huge step for me, but I felt really comfortable knowing how his like creative role can be and the way that he can cut and edit my boring rants on AOHD for those videos and live on the podcast, just like cut me off or sees when I'm going on a stupid rant that I'm still waiting for you to cut off this one, but
I can. But yeah, so it's like I was waiting to like have my moment to just be like, now you're complimenting, now I gotta shit on you. I mean, it's the rules. Them's the rules.
Them is the rules.
But I'll let you go on this one. But yeah, it's for me, it's fun just doing that. Like, granted, like he has his own things that he does, like, and I know that he has his like the content that he likes to talk about or likes to, go off on, like similar to you. Like I think 90% of the time that you guys get together, you guys always talk about content. So it's like there's that's your main topic of conversation. So
I mean, we spend a lot of our free time doing content, and we're like the only people, at least in my circle, like that he gets, but I do it.
Yeah.
So like, and like we've kind of like merged that since like the beginning is kind of like us been like working together and like testing that out. And like, I mean, half the reason like I got like the cameras with the roadcasters because we did the whole Connecting Vibe collab. And
that's right.
The reason that I started a podcast was the first time I did your podcast way back when. I left that, or I finished that podcast, and immediately there's like weird spark, this ignition just like fired up in my gut, and I was.
Can I get a
beep beep? I just. Oh, ignition. And I just knew in that moment, I'm like, I have to figure out how to do this regularly. Like I have to figure out how to make this a part of my life. And at the point of recording with you, I had done like a remote podcast a couple times, like just audio only. So I had technically been on a podcast before, but it was when I sat in person. And at the moment, it was very important to you because it was like during the pandemic that like I could have gone remote, but it was not the direction you wanted to go. You wanted the value that is given to you when you do sit across from the person. You see all those emotions and the reactions of the person as they're talking and telling their story.
Is that the one that like you asked me to make a beat for?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we did talk about that. Yeah. That's how we first initially started like talking, and then like obviously started to like formally introduce me to you, and then I got you on the podcast and all that stuff, and it kind of grew the relationship from there.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah,
now we just the short kings.
Yeah,
shitting on the bald guy.
Yeah, that's the way it should be.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess don't look in the cameras often enough.
Listen,
at least you watch. I was like thinking of like
cooking captured by his eyes, and you're just like, oh, they're shitting on me. People help. But
they ain't gonna help you. I tell them not to look. Like they can look wherever they want to look. They don't have to look at the camera. I'd rather have them look at me. What's the score? I thought it was important. There's nothing happening.
Celtics
unlimited 5G for $25. Thank you, Metro PCS.
Yeah, last time you were on my podcast, we brought the Carroll Connection vibe to Ever-Changing Vibe.
That was your fault.
Ever-Changing Vibe to Carroll Connection. So I hope you guys like this.
Which it's like I was prepared for whatever you were gonna throw, so I just never know what to expect in your podcast because it's literally. I figured you don't, but like I mean that's how I feel when I watch it. You don't know what you're doing, but it's kind of
you can't bring two dudes that consistently joke and just shit on everything their entire time they're together and expect them not to do this anywhere.
No, I figured that's why like I was like excited for that. Like I mean like that was a good one. Like I actually care about the Celtics, so like I was like important. Like I don't know, like. I will be pissed if they lose this game, to be completely honest with you. I've been watching pretty regularly, but it is what it is. I know. I don't think you're not crazy into sports, are you?
I'm like.
He's
I'm
more into sports. He's more into sports than I am.
I really enjoy the story of sports. Do I care if I miss a game? Not at all. I'll look at the game report. I can watch a couple highlights and enjoy the game as much as anyone who went to the game. For me, that's enough. Whereas but I do like following the not just the story. I like to see, different players across different leagues and sports and teams, and why is like that's kind of how I end up choosing a team to root for, more or less. I mean, Celtics, I like Boston, but other than that, like if right now, if the Celtics don't win the championship, I want Steph Curry to get another one. I think that's my.
I want LeBron.
I think that's the coolest storyline.
I like LeBron. I just like he's only got so more. Like I love that series. Like I'm so glad that they got to face each other.
Cool series.
Like it's just like at a certain point, as just like a sports fan in general, you gotta and I learned this with like just being like watching Brady for so long. You gotta just appreciate the fact that someone's able to like consistently, and you can relate this to any type of like thing in general. Like even if like you want to do podcasts and Joe Rogan, you got to respect someone that can do it for so long and do it at such a high level, because like they're not going to do it forever. Like eventually they're going to like I mean, even eventually he's gonna stop. Like in general,
that's-
like, people are gonna eventually
yeah.
stop doing what they do
Yeah.
because like can't do shit forever. Like it's impossible. Life's finite. Just it
Mhm.
comes to an end eventually. But appreciating greatness. But personally, I would like to see LeBron. But if he lost like the net in the Celtics lose, then I would like to see Curry for the whole storyline, like you said.
Mm.
Because like I like again, like I agree with you. The stories of things. That's why people watch sports. It's the story.
I think Curry's the GOAT. I really do.
I've been hearing that a lot.
I
Like
can't-
like I said, I don't watch
If he
sports,
wins,
but I
he's in
hear
the
that a lot.
you can't deny the conversation anymore. Like
Dude,
he's
when
there.
he won last year, it to me that was the convincing argument.
I think he needs one. That fifth one is the one where it really puts you more because he's still not like people argue
yeah,
he's not
but-
even in the top 10.
I know, and it's stupid because people don't give him credit when you see like an athletic prowess like Jordan or LeBron James. Like everyone's just like, oh, I can visibly see how talented this guy is, and it's just like he's just gifted like genetically. But Curry is taking whoever is on his team and bringing them to the top, especially when you see Durant. Like everyone's giving Durant the MVP when he's on the Golden State Warriors. Durant won that title. He goes and does nothing after he's traded. Curry wins another championship. Like to me, Curry is what allowed Durant to win that championship. Curry's the one who made everybody on his team better. Every single championship. So to me, it's not even an argument. But I mean, I also am bullshit. Like I don't know what I'm talking about.
No, you're making great points.
I like more so the storyline of.
He literally changed basketball the way it's played by shooting threes the way he does. Like, and you go to any gym, if you're just even like an average basketball player, people are shooting threes because like, if you're just like, say you're like for us, we're not gifted height wise. Like basketball,
that's why I'm the layup king.
Yeah,
I'm the layup king for
but like,
a reason.
but like a lot of guys can never be LeBron James for that reason.
Right.
But like you could shoot like Steph Curry. Like if you really practice, like obviously not be like Steph Curry, but like you know what I'm saying? Like shooting is like pure basketball. For him to change the culture like that, he makes the argument like Michael Jordan did where he changed the culture of basketball. I don't think LeBron ever really changed the culture of basketball.
The other thing that he's done, which is part of why I don't think he's called into like that list of like top 10, top 5 or whatever, is he's just a good, genuine person. He's not controversial. He's never in the news. He's not like the only time you hear Steph Curry is talking about basketball. When you here's LeBron James, you don't know if you're hearing like a TMZ article or an NBA article. Like LeBron James could be doing whatever else. So it's like he's bringing he'll like, which I'm sure Steph Curry shit talks to his degree or whatever, but he's just focused on basketball, which is to me what I see when I'm looking at like the Messi Ronaldo debate. It's like Ronaldo's like globally just known. Messi now is definitely globally known too, but the only time you hear about Messi is when we're talking about soccer. Ronaldo, we could be talking about underwear, some new dental like product,
attractive
this thing,
dudes, most paid athlete.
right? Like all these like stupid things, like, and then soccer. Like, so to me, that's why I think Curry is even more so the GOAT. It's like if we're talking about the greatest of all time in basketball, the person that we always talk about basketball with is Steph Curry. The person that has all these accolades is Steph Curry, just like LeBron James and Michael Jordan. Okay. But Michael Jordan and LeBron, like Jordan, we talk about shoes half the time. People, I honestly believe kids these days, if they hear Jordan, they know more the shoe brand than the person, the great NBA player. And LeBron
Speaking
James,
of shoes too, like how long is it gonna take for you to cover up that finger? Do you know how long that thing's been fucking black?
You gotta think how
Oh,
long
is-
that takes though. Like
yeah.
nails don't like grow that fast. Like he has to wait for the entire nail to like grow. That's
Dude,
how that
It was
works.
a
That
stupid
thing
fucking
is-
question, but
I think he needs to cover it up.
I admire.
I think he needs to cover it up. And also, I'm trying to change the topic.
That's a good topic,
Stole
Jay.
my point. I admire the fact that you're like, let's move on.
Yeah, it was a great
I need a
conversation.
topic to talk
I mean, it all
about.
started because you made me look at the nothing on the screen. So
The topic I was about to pick was just like, Dwayne Johnson's being sued for $6 billion.
what I wanted to get to is like, obviously you guys collabing together. What sparked you of him eventually, Gio, producing for Every Changing Vibe and helping you. Now you're releasing videos. How has that process, like an entire process, been for you? Because we didn't really talk about that on the last time with Eli. That was
Sure.
more just talking about like our
I wasn't even
experience.
there at that point.
Yeah, I don't think I was even.
Yeah, so like like you said, you weren't there. So like, how did that start happening? And then when did you get the confidence in your video like editing to like start releasing the content? Because I know I was always on you for it, and it was just more of to like
We all
I knew the stuff it looks good visually. It looks good. You just wanted to get your experience behind making sure you know how to do it yourself. So I'll let you kind of go
I
into that.
think when me and Gio really established the AOHD stuff, we were kind of hopping studios. Like sometimes we'd work up at his studio, sometimes it'd be my studio, back and forth. And the more times he was at my studio, or whenever I was at his studio, I would see how he's kind of playing around with lighting. And then he'd come over to my studio. I'm like, all right, what would you do here? And then he'd kind of show me some lighting things. And then that whole aspect started to give me a little bit of confidence with my actual set. So now I'm actually, and I had been recording since probably like video since I want to say somewhere around like episode 70-ish. And I just wasn't even trying to video edit. So I kept like getting to the point where I tell Gio like, oh, I'm going to start video editing. I'm going to start video. And I never was. And him and my mom actually colluded, and my mom got me Final Cut Pro because he kept saying like, you need Final Cut Pro. It's super easy, because every time I was video editing in the past, trying to line up the audio with the visual, I'm like, this is too much work. It's not worth it. It's making me dislike, podcasting. So I'm not going to do that. Then he got my mom, or like told my mom.
No. Your mom hit me up and she was just like,
Fair.
I'm trying to find Brandon a good gift. And I was just like, Final Cut Pro.
I literally opened the gift.
I was like, I'll find you the discount code and everything to get it like at the student deal.
Yeah.
That way he gets Logic and Final Cut Pro and a bunch of other stuff. Like, I'll get you all that. That's what he needs.
And she, like, I open it up, it was in an envelope, and I pull it out, so the printed receipt and everything, and I literally was like, immediately, fuck you, you fucking asshole. And it was kind of, in a lot of ways, like what you did and helped out with my podcast, is you kind of put my feet to the fire. When you said, in order for me to be a guest on your podcast very early in my journey, like episode 17 or something, you said, I need you to be on Apple and Spotify for me to be your guest. And I took the steps to get there. Well, by him being like, well, you have Final Cut now. I've been telling you, I'll show you how to do it. He showed me how to do it. I edited the first episode, and I started posting those episodes. I waited until episode 100 to actually announce that I've been on YouTube. So I had about almost like 10 episodes of like, to allow myself to practice video editing, to practice the workflow, to know that if there was down to crunch time, I could record a podcast, edit a podcast, and post it in like 3 days or whatever. So I knew I had that. I had the confidence. And then, Booth Babe, by like episode 99, I was like, I set myself a deadline. Episode 105 is when I'll start announcing it. And she's like, why don't you just announce it? I'm like, why don't I? So I finally announced it on episode 100. And then, I've been able to keep up with that. Like,
and I think we did like a soft announce on like the AOHD too.
Yeah. Did you ever release that though?
Yeah, no, I did. It was on part of the episode.
Oh, yeah.
There was actually twice, I think. There was like
You're
two
right.
parts. And there's even one where you're just like, you kept that part in? And I was like, yeah.
Yeah.
So I got you.
So it was a lot of
Bitch.
It was a lot of experiencing YouTube and content creation with the AOHD that started to make me comfortable with it, build my confidence. Like, okay, it's not that crazy. It's not that much work. Then when I started editing and I started to build the confidence with the full production of a podcast episode, I was definitely ready to announce it. And then I think it's just improved from there. But like, that's what, like, literally just working with a different style of content, literally just working with AOHD is what gave me the ability to say, okay, this is a thing that I can do. When I'm ready, I can do it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And like, I actually want to ask you, and then I'm going to go to Gio with another question. Kind of like, this is more of my typical softball like cut questions for like kind of like clips and stuff. But like, I think you could answer this really well in terms of patience and like actually following through with like the way that you want to do your process, and like giving advice for people to like follow their own like intuition with stuff. Cause like I always wanted you to kind of like just post, and like I'm always like just post it, and like
Mm.
you're like I'm gonna do it when I'm ready. So like kind of like what would your advice be for someone who like is kind of in that same position that you were, where you weren't like fully ready to, and you wanted to trust your own like gut and follow your own path versus following someone else's path?
Patience is the most important, but I like to think about the acronym WWJD.
Oh.
WWJD. What would Jared do? And do the opposite.
Totally ruined the
I saw
clip.
it
We'll not
coming.
use that.
I was like, as soon as you said JD, I was like, okay, there's no Jesus here.
So clearly you were going for 0 views, but I get it.
No, I've always been about the idea that even when I set out to do the podcast, I told myself I'm setting myself to the burden of either proving correct or proving incorrect the like Malcolm Gladwell 10,000 hour rule, or all those like cliche, like just do it, just do it. So the only way I can prove it or disprove it is if I do it until I die. So if I keep doing it long enough, eventually it'll come to fruition. I can prove it real sooner than I can prove it unreal. Because the moment I prove it, like the moment I quit, I've ended this scientific theory or whatever. So I know I have to keep doing it. That makes me like balanced and very patient, where it doesn't matter when I start announcing it. It doesn't matter when the moment that I go viral, the moment that people really start coming down to Ever Changing Vibe, really checking me out, really like building a fan base, a following of this or that. Like, it doesn't matter when that happens. I'm just going to keep doing it until I either prove or disprove this theory. So I've been really good at being patient, and I never want to just jump and do something because that's the way to get the next level. Like, I'll get to that level will happen somewhere along my journey. So if I don't feel like confident and ready, I don't know what my visual like podcast is going to look like, I want to keep trying the workflow. I want to keep making sure that this works for me in my week to week life, and then I can announce it. But I'm not putting on a big spectacular announcement. I'm just, to the people that currently follow me, now they know it's an announcement. Like, now they know you can check me out also on YouTube. And I'm not trying to like, I know you even gave me a little bit of criticism. Like, I don't put hashtags. I don't really like my bio on my YouTube channel is bland and I don't even know if I have a bio, but like every description
The tags, you
is a
mean.
quick little thing. I have no tags. I just like, I'm just putting this out because I want to continue to improve my content. And then when I'm ready to take that next step, I can start taking that next step. Like, but regardless, if I do this forever, eventually the like stats will get to where they need to if Malcolm Gladwell and those cliche comments are correct.
I'm glad that you actually respectfully answered that question too, and didn't just make a joke, because that was a really great answer. And like I totally I totally agree with that whole point of just like, and me and you and Eli have talked about it too, just like in podcasting in general, just continually doing the thing and like making the episodes, creating the content, holding yourself accountable to create the content. And I wanted to switch this to you, Gio, in the fact of like changing direction, because a lot of people have fear in when they're doing something to stop it and then do something new, because you kind of, for some people I could imagine, they feel like they have to like tear down what they've already built. Instead, you've kind of pivoted with the change of direction and built on the stuff that you already had. So in terms of advice,
I'll take this one.
no, we had enough of you. This is Gio's podcast. Thank you. In terms of advice for people who want to pivot and change direction with whatever they're doing, whether it's career, hobby, like whatever it is, what would you tell them to do in terms of changing direction?
Well, I mean, I'm not going to lie, I'm still discovering that myself, right? But like, I think that if you're noticing that like you're struggling with what you're doing now, and it's just like you need that change, like you're dead with like what you're doing now, like there's no enjoyment from that. It's like, if you can take what you have currently learned and put it someplace else, then do that. Like, I think that one of the things that I am happy about, like, is doing the podcast, not because I did it, spent all that money, built that studio and everything like that, and don't use it anymore. But,
I helped you clear that out too.
Yeah, and sure you did.
A little bit.
Right. So when you get, like, even though I did all that stuff, like I invested all that money, it's not like it was for naught. Like all that, like finally got me to the point of like actually trying out content, actually getting to test out like all those things that I wanted to try out. And it's just like similar to what he was saying, where it's like he doesn't want to rush it and he's still testing things out and he's not putting tags to push himself out there because he's still testing things out. It's one of those things where it's like, even before I even put out a video, I did like 6 or 7 mock podcasts just to like test my editing and all that other stuff. Now, in doing all of that practice and all that stuff that I did for the podcast, the learning about like camera work, learning about lighting, all that information that I took from there, I found that there was something else I enjoyed. And I realized that like with that something else, I could take the things that I had learned, even some of the furniture, so I didn't spend all that money for nothing. But like I could take all of the stuff that I had and bring it to a different direction. And it was like, yeah, was it scary? Because it's like, I don't know if this is going to work. Sure. But like, I think personally, like life's too short to just be afraid to not do things. And like I just love to try new things constantly. Like, I mean, I fucking moved to LA on a whim and lived there for almost 4 years and then I moved back. And it's like, yeah, does that move back and forth suck a little bit? Sure. But like I think I enjoy like being able to explore different things. I used to just drive to different states sometimes. It's like there are going to be times where it's like you need that shift and you need that movement or you need that change in gear because it's like it may take you to the other thing. Like, I mean, look at the fucking Rock. Like, dude started off in what? Football? Like, and then went to wrestling and now is an actor. Like, life is going to take you wherever life's going to take you. Like, don't be afraid to just take the direction it brings you.
100%. I knew he was going to take a bathroom break at some point.
I knew too. I was just waiting for the moment, but like,
yeah, you hear that, boy? We're saying it, and this is going on. This is going on the video. I don't give a shit.
Yeah, keep it
It's
in
like,
there.
yeah, I knew he couldn't last an hour. We're like
Almost there.
Almost there.
It was like
Almost
47
there. Yeah, we're almost there. And he just could not hold it. And I mean, he did drink it all, so I'll give him that. And he was drinking his water. But
dude, do you know how many times I've had to cut stuff out of the podcast? Or
you can walk through.
Or cut stuff out of AOHD because this kid is pissing out of nowhere. It's just like, up and I'm gone. It just disappears.
You had like 10 minutes. You could have held it.
I was like
almost. And I was thinking, I'm like, man, he's doing so great. Like in my head, and I'm like, almost made it.
I was waiting. Like part of that rant when he was going off, I was smiling because I was just like, could you imagine if he got up and just
mid rant?
Like, mid rant. He's like,
the switch was as soon as I finished and you started talking before you asked the question to Gio. I got that piss fog, and I'm like, I can't think right now. This is bad. I gotta go.
I mean, you had your stretch. You had your stretch.
Over at the time, I'm like, come on, you can do it.
No.
And I literally thought, I was like, I'm either going to tell them I pissed myself at the end of this podcast, or I'm gonna go up and piss.
Well, he's sitting there, he's just like trying to think of the clock, and then the clock ticking starts happening, and the clock ticking starts sounds like water, and now the water is just like, time to go.
At least
I was about to piss him.
Bro, we got 10 minutes. He's going to go to the bathroom in 10 minutes. But I do want to start coming towards the end and wrapping things up. But I want to talk a little bit more with AOHD and like kind of the vision with the content, basically. Where do you see this going? And for the next few videos, I know you guys been focusing on a lot of music. Is it going to stay with music? I know you did some Dragon Ball Z stuff. Like, what's the vision with it? So
it's like, of course, like we still have like our reaction channel basis where it's just like we're still doing like, you know, the music a little bit, and we're still doing the Dragon Ball Z because I'm a nerd and that's not going away.
That's such a great premise too, because it's the whole like concept of it is anime fan shows a non-anime fan anime abridged, like, and it just gives me a distorted reality of what anime is. It's very fun for me to to watch it for the first time. He's rewatching it and like enjoying and seeing different things. And we see in the comment section, like the fans really enjoy that dynamic of like when you get to show your friend like something that they've never seen before, like getting to be in that room, like
with watching them,
it's so exciting. Fun. So it's really fun. So I think that like gives that reaction. But sorry.
So like I think the whole reaction thing in general is gonna be around to stay for the most part. Like I may eventually over time add different types of content, maybe even create a side channel to like do other types of content. But I think the goal soon is like we're going to be adding new things, whether it's like, we have a thing where by the time this comes out, we'll probably have like the meme thing come out where we're talking about like just doing like meme reviews essentially, and just kind of seeing whose memes are funnier on their timeline, stuff like that. Or we're just going to be doing like different types of reactions or like commentary. Like those are things that we want to start implementing to the channel, because it's like, as much as I love music and I am a piano major, flashback if you're paying attention. But the so for me, it's like, as much as that is the case, it's like I don't want to just be stuck to one genre. Like
Pigeonholed, yeah.
yeah, I like being able to go wherever I want to go. Like whenever I feel trapped, that's when I get anxious. Like when I feel like I can do whatever the fuck I want to do, that's when I feel the most creative. That's when I feel like I can just do whatever the fuck I can do. You know what I mean? And just be able to do even more. Like that's when I have the most confidence, I think, personally. Like when I have that open field. And then like, but if I have like the fucking main path, like for example, even on fucking nature walks, I'm not the guy that's walking on the cement path. I found the alleyway that's like that one place into the woods that may lead someplace, and I'm like, if I need it, I'll open up Eventbrite and find where this leads. But like, I'm going this way. I want to see those new paths. I want to explore. I don't want to sit there and just take this one boring path. And so it's like, I do think that eventually the music will kind of take a little bit of a backseat, not completely disappear, but I do think that like the fans will start to see like new sides of us with like the commentary or different types of reactions, and like gives us more opportunity to show that more, I guess, comedic side of us. Not that it's not there already, but like
our biggest focus, I think, right now is hoping that like we are displaying our personalities so that people are coming to watch us and not coming to watch the last artist that we reacted to, or oh, I like Dragon Ball Z Abridged, so I just want to watch Dragon Ball Z Abridged react. Like we want them to be like Gio and wALiE. We like their take, so we're starting to explore some other options in that reaction commentary lane to really expand, so people don't know us as like, all right, that's the music reaction channel, or that's the Dragon Ball Z reaction. Like,
and this is why I have him on, because it's like sometimes I can't get words out, and sometimes he gets too many words out. But at least the times that he can,
the AOHD is way better than the podcast that I do. So,
well, it's because you cut out most of him talking.
Yes, that's what I said. Most of him
talking, and he always does so in a comedic fashion. Like it's always like better entertainment.
Yeah, because I don't want to sit here and like hurt his feelings either when I cut 90% of what he said out.
That's what it started as, but I think you've learned me very well. It's like,
so now I intentionally hurt his feelings.
The harder you try to hurt my feelings, the funnier I laugh, or the harder I laugh at that like reaction.
But yeah, so it's like that's kind of like the goal at this point. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it's not like I can't pivot again.
Malcolm Gladwell's wrong. That's what we prove.
What I've never watched
this.
Work. Oh, if it doesn't work,
you've never watched?
I've never oh well, see,
it's okay.
I am also illiterate.
He just knows that part.
Yeah.
I've heard podcasters talk about it.
Sometimes. And even then, it's like most of the podcasts, I'm probably playing a video game, and that's just in the background.
Dude, facts.
That's why I pivoted to more streamers, because like I like just to have something on, like you guys said, just to like what I'm doing, even like if I'm doing like cardio on the treadmill, just to throw on a streamer. I actually heard Ninja say that once. He's like, just throw on your favorite streamer and just you'll bang out cardio like that. And like, the quick pivot too is talking about, I forget where we were talking about this, or I think I was listening to one of your episodes where you were talking about just going for walks and like getting more into that with like, kind of just walking your thoughts through mentally. And I thought that was such a relatable thing, because I personally like to do that. And like I think we were talking last time I was in the studio, like you were literally saying you had conversations like openly to yourself.
Yeah.
And like I low-key kind of do that. So like
check out episode 107. That comes out the day before this one comes out.
Yeah. Is it? We didn't time that on purpose.
I'm starting to feel like there's like a little bit of an autistic trait there. Like the fact that you can just remember every episode by number, just stop conversation.
Shit, I do that.
Like, I can't, like, even when I had the podcast, I was just like, I did it on one of the episodes, whichever one you find. Like, good luck. I don't know. But like the fact that you'll just be able to sit there and be like, oh, me and Jared are talking about like potatoes on episode 105.
Well,
and
if he
I just-
didn't know the next
at
episode
the
coming out, I would
timestamp
actually
30.
shit on you. Like that one's crazy. If you don't actually know the episode that you're about to drop, that's kind of crazy. So I'll defend him in that aspect.
Yeah, I guess. But I mean, like that he was doing that even back like to episode 30. Like you'd be sitting there like, oh yeah, I did that on episode 27. And I'm just like, how the fuck?
I think you were 13 or 14 the first time.
Yeah.
At that point, I mean, I'll defend him on that.
I won't.
I mean, if he didn't know the episode coming out, I'd be like, bro, like, you're not hitting those 10,000 hours at that point.
I don't think he has yet. But
It's a lot. It's crazy. Like 10,000
I've
to actually do.
talked for 10,000 hours
yeah, that's just life though.
when I was 7. So
On the weekend.
yeah. Last weekend.
My God, guys, this has been actually. I've loved having you guys actually on the Carroll Connection together because, like, I've had you and Eli, and that's like obviously a different dynamic. But like getting you guys together because I usually only experience you guys like obviously on Ever Changing Vibe
Yeah.
together. So like to actually get you on this podcast, and I appreciate you guys coming into this dynamic because I know like getting a little more serious is not like your favorite forte, your favorite thing to do. But like I can appreciate the fact that you guys will do that when you come on my podcast, and like
Dude,
I just gotta do that.
I really gotta say, like,
Here it comes, gonna be some bullshit.
We-
like I already know. I can
ahead,
tell
go
the
ahead.
tone of your voice.
Go ahead,
Like
just
I already
do
know
it,
it's not
just
gonna be
do it, go ahead.
serious.
Here's the bit. Fucking nail it.
it's all about comedy.
So I know one listens to your shit.
I'm really like, I guess I shouldn't be surprised, but me and Gio have done a lot of content together, but we've never like been a duo guest on a podcast, and I've honestly had a lot of fun with this because like we don't. Besides like with AOHD, we only talk to each other about it. Sometimes I'm like sharing that stuff with like Booth Babe, or like I'm just talking to my dad. I'm like, oh yeah, that trying to explain the world of YouTube and the difference of a podcast versus the YouTube channel and that stuff. But I don't think we ever just sit down and get to share and talk about like our dynamic, and I think it kind of put our dynamic a lot more on display in a way that I never knew we hadn't experienced yet.
I mean, it's not like I fucking edit it all the time and see it. So like, I don't fucking know.
Yeah, but
I see this dynamic all the fucking time. But this
I
guy
try to also let you
nothing.
guys like just be yourself too on this podcast. I didn't want to like make it all serious. I
Yeah.
wanted to let you guys do what you want to do.
but I think that's kind of my point. Is like I know we had a dynamic, but to both come on to like a more serious podcast, to still have some fun, still tell our story, and like to me, it really surprised me for some reason, like how fun this episode was to record, and
And you didn't even shit on Jared once.
No, he did.
Oh shit, never mind.
I did.
Well, kind of with the
So what was yours? Just that I pee a lot.
well, that's I don't even need to make the joke. The viewers can see that for themselves. Like,
You cut that. Cut that.
I ain't no chance I cut that. Not a chance.
But yeah, nah, for me, I just assumed like this was gonna be the dynamic anyway, because it's like I know for me, serious is never always my bet, because I don't like to bring that serious vibe all the time, because I don't like the energy like where I'm bringing anyone down. So it's like if I can keep everybody.
Serious doesn't bring people down.
What? Yeah, there's
Serious
no.
is supposed to level you.
What? No, I don't think. For me, I feel like sometimes it kills the mood. Like when you be too serious or just get too emotional, and everyone's just like, "Well, fuck you," So like, I just like to be a little bit like add a little bit of that comedy to like break the ice or break the tension.
This is supposed to be the goal of like for the Carroll Connection. When people come back on, it's not so much of like the interview, like that first half, and usually it's the hopes that people will. If people want, it's like obviously I put the whole 1 year thing in there. It's for one, life to happen, and two, the guest has to reach back out to come back on, because then it clearly shows you're coming with something, and it doesn't have to be so much of like me interviewing you. It can be a conversation, and then it could be a conversation with humor. It could be a conversation with something emotional. It doesn't matter. It just like that next episode after that, a first initial, which is to get your story to the audience, so the audience can like hear who you are first, and then this can be what it is. And that's why I was like excited to do this, because I knew it was going to be a little bit more comedic style, and like you guys are going to show your personalities more versus like me interviewing you.
Can I
Yeah,
ask
so-
you a question?
Sure.
So on
Burger
the
King or McDonald's?
the
Definitely not Burger King. McDonald's has to be. Burger King. Burger King was like the no.
All right, this has been an episode of.
Who's your producer? Mute.
Taco Bell's number one. First off,
This has
fast
been the
food-
course of the Carroll Connection. Like
That might be a
we
cap.
out of here.
No,
What the
no.
fuck?
like fast food. Well, so if you're going to do the big three fast food, I think it's Wendy's, McDonald's, Burger King.
Okay. Well, all right. You know what I'm gonna do though?
Burger King used to be top, and they
It
changed their
used to be top.
They used
That's
to.
why I'm
I
gonna
used
give
to
it to you.
like my grandma used to take us for our birthday. Would always take us out to like get something like fast food and get us a gift. I would always go to Burger King because their chicken nuggets and their French fries were the best.
Yes.
Then they changed the formula.
Always.
They changed
And
the
then now
formula.
the fries have a weird
Yep.
aftertaste.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
no,
yep.
for real. The
It,
burgers
it
are
would have been
still
number
alright.
one. It would have been number one,
Let's talk
but they
about
changed it.
sports, so I can.
What were you gonna ask me?
You
Go
know,
ahead.
You
Go ahead.
need to tell me with a belly like this, you ain't eating no fast food. You get the fuck out of here.
He's on walks, man. Let him be.
They're not exercise. That's a bad big point.
I know,
But you kind of alluded to a little bit of a, kind of change of mentality with the direction of Carroll Connection, where now you're just focused on providing a resource that the guests and the family and friends of that guest can use to hear their story and have that story forever. But one of the things that dude, I have ADHD. Do not fucking do anything when I'm talking. No, but so my question for you is, what is kind of your plan, like with Carroll Connection podcast? I know for a while, like we've kind of collabed or just like had conversations off air and stuff about expanding past just the podcast, or maybe adding a secondary podcast. And how do you still see yourself kind of doing something else and adding to this and like building the content that you're creating, and what direction do you want to go in?
Yeah, I think I'll do it until I don't want to do it anymore, type 5. And like I don't know when that'll be. Maybe it'll be when I run out of guests and like experience that. And like I've definitely run into that before, where I've hit months where it's like it feels like it's a struggle to get. I'll be booked out for a month and still feel like I'm struggling to get guests. But that comes with waves. I've noticed. I've done this is year 4 of doing this, but I think the next chapter might be like something like book writing or something, or just like trying
cool.
something.
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
always wanted to write a book. I just
Nice.
wanted to live a little bit more to figure out what I want to write about.
Right.
But journaling kind of opened that path for me, where I really liked writing down my thoughts. So I think whether it's a blog, I never really wanted to do blogs, but I think like an actual book of something, I don't know what yet,
Okay.
but I've thought memoir, maybe just to like write my life, just to have it capsulated in like a specific written tone for family purposes, more or less. But that obviously would mean more life needs to be lived, in my opinion. But I think that is the direction I want to go. It's like I want to keep doing this for as long as I can. I've invested enough, and that's always motivators. When you invest enough, you're going to keep doing it.
Yeah.
But I think adding to it is
RIP
doing
Mama.
something else on top of the podcast. I think I like what I have with the
Not
podcast.
necessarily in the content direction, like a book is.
Yeah, it could be something that I can actually promote in the podcast. It's like, hey, if you
Okay.
want to hear more about like my personal life, or you want to hear more about this topic, or maybe I write a book, something about mental health that I find. I've been really passionate about men's mental health and like the actual value, whether it's therapy or working out or something like that. And that's something I might eventually explore once it requires me
Like
more.
a Huberman almost.
Yeah, more going into the data though, and like actually like looking at data from other scientists and like putting that in together for someone to like actually use as a resource. So maybe that's something that I do one day. Is like I'm obviously not a well-renowned scientist. I don't know all the data. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a therapist, but I am a content creator, and what I can do is look at people who are in that field and put that maybe into a source where people can actually find value. And that's something I think about pretty often. It's just like, or I've talked about life coaching before. That is going to be coming in
I like
with,
that one.
again, more life experience. I want to have more experience before I tell someone else how to live their life.
I think that's a role that I learned for myself the first time I did this podcast. Is like I even said on that episode, like this has felt like a therapy session. It's not just the episode that people got to hear. It was the hour of just chatting before, the 2 hours chatting afterwards, and then just the follow-up text calls, conversations and stuff. I think you have the unique skill set to give someone their journey. And I do appreciate the like having the patience of like understanding. I feel like I need more life experience before I can pass that on to somebody. So I think that's really cool. I really want to see where that next step takes you. When I asked the question, I honestly thought you were going to have a vision about more adding another like content layer, like either like kind of bringing back your TikTok or bringing back like maybe shorter form YouTube.
Making a compilation of every time he comes on and takes a piss.
I've thought about like the TikTok stuff and like that's something maybe one day, but I mean, personally, in my own personal life.
Now you're in a you got a different vibe. You got
yeah, for sure. And that's what I was actually gonna. And
you
like
got
that,
advice to tell now.
And like my personal life has been a lot more positive and a lot better. Obviously, I don't talk too much about like that on the podcast because it's still new.
Sure,
but my vibe around content posting has definitely changed because I'm very open. Is when I would post content, it was for attention. I don't want that attention anymore. Like I'm happy with what I have, and like I don't need that external validation from anything.
Shout outs to that positivity. You know what I'm talking about.
I know what he's trying to say. We don't need to go into that.
No, we don't.
No, we
Fresh
don't.
and fit. No,
that's not it. Thought you meant something else, but
no, I meant the other thing. No
okay,
worries.
okay.
I just needed to.
What, you feel like I feel like I have something to say. What are you gonna say?
What?
I thought you were about to say something. That's like
what?
I thought you were about to say
Me?
something. You looked like you were already about to say
That's why
something.
you keep looking at me.
I thought you. Like,
I know.
It's
I
because you
know.
have pretty eyes, obviously.
Yeah.
You do have really pretty eyes. I'll give you that. No hair, but I mean,
Yeah. Well,
I mean, it's all here.
right. More testosterone. We get it.
Yeah,
Like, yeah.
and you go bald faster. Blah.
right there, that's the T spot.
Mm-hmm.
That's all the testosterone. Don't you forget it.
Did you hear that voice though? That was the
That was
dad
deep.
talk.
That was
It's
deep.
coming in. It's
Well, I thought he was the mom.
well, I mean, maybe for Booth Babe, you know what I'm saying? Over here, he's the mom.
Gender.
All right,
is,
no. We're gonna bring it home now. We are getting to the end, so I want to wrap this up because before this gets off the fucking rails.
You know it will.
It's getting close there. So I appreciate you guys both being on the podcast and like talking about AOHC, talking a little bit about Ever Changing Vibe. I want to leave you guys with kind of like the last thoughts. If you want to say anything positive, you want to shout your channel, whatever you want to say, I'll let you guys kind of have last thoughts.
So what I tell people who are trying to pursue their passion, Gio, finish that.
I'm not asking that again. That's a first
show
time
you how to
thing.
pursue your passion all the time.
Passion?
I can speak.
This is why I'm ending the episode.
Yeah.
Until next time, guys.
Yeah, right. But yeah, nah, for real, just check out AOHD and Ever Changing Vibe if you want to. I don't really care for that other one, but AOHD is more important.
It's actually wALiE_ECV if you wanted to check that out.
Well, I mean, Ever Changing Vibe is the podcast.
You can see if you wanted this to be a Carroll Connection episode, check out the Ever Changing Vibe
so
episode
weird.
107. I know. But
now that you
we
say that,
switched
we
up,
literally
but it's
switched
fine.
episodes.
Yeah, so yeah, just come check us out. It's cool. It's fun, especially if you like reaction channels. Otherwise, like, have fun, do what you want to do. Keep watching this guy because he needs the views, and you know I needed to throw in one at least.
It's fine. It's
any
fine.
CCOM viewers, thank you for sticking through.
Any CCOM viewers, me. What's up, dude? Haven't seen you in a while. Hit me up.
Well, again, appreciate you guys for coming on the podcast. It's always a blast just getting to hang out and just do shit and just like fuck around and like.
I'm sorry we went crazy.
No, I fully expected this episode. This is actually a lot more tamed than I thought it might get. Especially when I saw you with the whiskey, I'm like, this might get off the
I know,
rails.
when he brought up the whiskey, I was just like, we might lose wALiE.
Yeah, that's why I'm like, we're getting there. That's why I'm ending it now. But again, I appreciate you guys, and I always love collabing with you guys, and it's fun. So I just want to say that. But for you guys, if you guys like the podcast, please rate, review, subscribe, share it with your friends, share it with your family, share it with your grandma. You can check it out the Carroll Connection.simplecast.com. Also available Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all the major listening platforms. If you want to check it out on YouTube, search the Carroll Connection or Jared M. Carroll. And if you want to be a guest, hit me on Instagram at Jared M. Carroll or at the Carroll Connection. Until next time, guys, peace.